Hello, welcome everyone to the next episode. Today I'm sitting down with my friend Hector. He works here at First American Title in Eugene, Oregon. And today we're going to just cover three basic topics. We're going to get to know Hector, talk a little bit about what he does here. We're going to talk about title and escrow for those of you that haven't gone through a house closing process, or if you haven't done it in a while. There's some new things these days that help make the process a lot easier. And then the third thing is Hector's got a really just wide breadth of knowledge and wisdom to share with us about marketing, online presence, things like that. So hopefully you can bring some value to the other small business people that watch this thing.
Absolutely.
So thanks so much for having the time to sit down with me, Hector. So let's just get started with a little bit about you and kind of what's got you into working here at First American.
Yeah, so it's been a long path. I came to the United States right after I graduated my undergraduates in systems and industrial engineering.
Nice.
And I came to the United States, and I've done everything. So I've washed dishes and cleaned bathrooms, eventually got a real estate license,
Cool.
Sold real estate for several years. That eventually led to the title insurance. So I did sales, title insurance sales, and then technology. I got a master's in business administration and technology management along the way.
Cool.
And eventually that led into title marketing and technology management and all of that in the title industry. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
So what was that like coming, from just graduating, moving to the States, trying to get obviously there's bills to pay.
Yep.
What was that like? It sounds like that was quite the journey.
Yeah, it's scary, and you kind of kick into survival mode.
Right.
And you're like, one day at a time. My very first job in Portland was drying cars as they're coming out of the car wash.
Yeah.
So that was my first job, and then I got a job at a restaurant, and it's just kind of one of those things where you kick into survival mode, and you're doing what you have to do today, right? And that carries the lesson almost for any business owner, any entrepreneur, right? It's like you have to have that kind of longer term goal, but then what does it mean to conquer today?
Yeah.
What does it look like if I win today? And then you don't look to win every day, but if you string along more wins than losses, you move forward.
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of my philosophy. Just get more wins along the way than losses, and I'm moving forward.
That's beautiful, man. I love that. That is, what a powerful just testimony, for you to be, starting there drying cars. Yeah. Here you are today. You had a very successful job. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing today. What's your role look like here?
So my current position is Vice President Area Manager for First American, and my job is to manage, in essence, what's a $5 million operation. So that's our, we revenue about $5-6 million a year. I have close to 30 employees, 3 branches. Wow. And so my responsibility is to manage all of that on a day-to-day basis, all the personnel, all of that, the payroll and all of that good stuff, and then provide some added value, right? So what we do is we work with our friends, real estate agents, lenders, and try to figure out ways for us to add value to the relationship to the title company. Title insurance is kind of a not a very sexy thing,
right.
And it's kind of just obtuse.
Yeah. And
so we all do the same. All the title companies do the same. We all charge basically the same. So we all look for ways to differentiate ourselves and to add a little value to the relationship, to the realtors and the lenders that we work with. So that's my job.
Yeah, nice. And so for those of you that are starting out, maybe you're washing the car, you're working at the restaurant, maybe you just started, the small business step. This is a beautiful story, and this is why I wanted to sit down with you, is that you went from the guy that's driving cars to now you're managing millions of dollars, 30 employees, multiple branches, and I'm not surprised. I know you. Like you're fantastic, personable, and you are just incredible with your knowledge and your wisdom, and how you attack things that you don't know is very evident to me. So when I first met Hector, I came in kind of toured First American Title, got to know a bunch of folks here, kind of learning the process myself too. And Hector sat down with me with my last interview and just shared basically some, marketing strategies, shared with us what this is. Today we're in his studio here at First American, so you could come in and shoot a video and talk about your business or whatever. They've got a green screen. He knows how to edit videos. It's insane. The guy knows everything. But the way that you talked earlier just about how stringing together the wins is so evident to me of why you're here today and how you're just kicking ass.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
You get to learn along the way that is not about just setting a goal and putting it, writing it down somewhere and putting it in a drawer.
Right.
Right? It's about breaking it down into the tiny little steps. And then you make decisions every hour as to where you put your time, your effort, your energy, your attention.
Yeah.
And those decisions lead to the actions, and the actions lead to winning the day, right? And then the next week and the next week. And, there are days where you completely get derailed, by other people's priorities, other people's needs, your own, you get distracted, you get off kind of your game. But if you have a clear, specific destination, right, of where you want to end up, you always have a place to go back. And yesterday I posted something on my Facebook that when you make a mistake, there are only 3 things you got to do: admit it, learn from it, and never do it again.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's just kind of little things like that kind of drop into my consciousness, and then you adopt them, right? And you recognize them as true, and then you adopt them, and they become part of kind of how you do business and how you operate on a day-by-day basis.
That's fantastic. I love that. That makes me think of something that Gary has said, and what Gary Keller in one of his books talks about, how sometimes we can be succeeding so slowly that it feels like failure. And what I'm hearing from you is the same thing. You have to make those small steps. You have to put the boring thing first.
Yes.
You can't just always, yesterday I shot a video about accountability and how I fail so many times at doing the boring stuff. And it's that's where we become successful.
Yes.
And that's where you go from driving a car to managing millions of dollars.
Yeah, and it's a matter of kind of figuring out what's important. And I call them, and I don't think it's my phrase, but I picked it up along the way someplace, goal advancing activities.
Nice.
Or money making activities, or green activities, right? So all of those are things that you have to do in order to succeed, in order to advance your goal. And there's no succeeding without doing those activities, right? No matter how hard you work, you can work super, super hard all day, all week, all month, and make zero progress to your goal, right? Because you did everything, and you did a lot of it, but it was not related to where you wanted to be, right? And that happens. I see it, with our real estate partners and our friends who are extremely busy and running with their hair on fire, and then the revenue is not showing up, right? And you can usually trace that back to the fact that they're doing a lot of stuff, but it's not the money-making stuff. And that's usually the hard stuff, right? The boring stuff is the phone calls and the follow-up and all of that.
Yeah, for sure. So that's a great way to pick up, because I have had that same experience, running around with my hair on fire. And, so before we dive more into that, because I want to talk more about your wisdom that you can share with us, let's talk about the non-sexy thing: title, insurance, escrow. What are these things? For those of you that are brand new to this, some depends on what state you're in, but for Oregon, we have title and escrow. So other states, sometimes a real estate attorney will handle the paperwork side of a transaction. So why don't you share with us a little bit about kind of the 101 on that?
Yeah, so what we do here is title insurance. We're a title insurance company, and along with that, we offer escrow services. So the title insurance is basically when you purchase a home and you get your keys, you get the house, right? You get the sticks and the windows and the doors. But along with that, you own a bunch of rights that come along with that property. And what we do is ensure that when you move into that house, not only do you get the sticks and the doors, but you also get the rights that go along with that property.
Yeah.
And we protect that for the homeowner. So when you have any particular issues with which they do happen, where you have unpaid loans from the past previous owners, and those are attached to the property, and somebody wants to collect on that money, and now you're the owner and they come to you, then we defend you.
Nice.
So that is one thing. The other thing is also, if you're getting a loan, generally your lender will require that we ensure that they are in the first position should the eventuality come where they have to foreclose on a particular property, right? So they want to know that they're the first one in line to recover that collateral.
Yeah.
So that's the title insurance part. And that's an oversimplification, but that's really what it is. And then we do the escrow services, and that's more of the handling of the paperwork and making sure the buyers and sellers' instructions are followed to the letter.
Yeah.
To make sure that what the seller wanted to occur during the transaction and the buyer wanted to occur to the transaction at the end is fulfilled. And then the seller gets their money when they sold the house, and the buyer gets their keys along with their title and everything else that goes along with that. So.
Yeah, fantastic. No, that's a great kind of just quick, concise way to look at it. And something that's interesting too with the title insurance that you're talking about, a title report is ordered when we're doing a transaction. And so that was one thing that was very cool to study when I was getting my license, but then to come in here and sit down with a title officer and literally they go back to when a piece of land became part of Oregon. So they're going all the way back to the beginning. So from then until today, they're ensuring that there's none of these liens that Hector's talking about that could potentially cause you a headache down the road when you own the property. And so it's really nice and I think reassuring to know. It's kind of like, when you buy a car these days, like there's Carfax and things like that. But you don't really know, like from when it left the manufacturer, what has happened to this car? And that's kind of the nice thing about a house is that we really get to know that story. And it's a powerful way to make sure you know exactly what you're getting into.
And I've never made that connection, that analogy to Carfax. And that's actually a really good one. I'm going to borrow that because that's really good. It is very similar, right? You get to see the history of the ownership and the bundle of rights transfer from one owner to the next. And that's a really good analogy. So I'm going to use that.
Yeah, for sure. And then so with escrow, too, let's talk a little bit about just the nitty gritty here. So when somebody comes in and they have an earnest money deposit, an earnest money deposit is where, as a buyer, you're putting down some money to say, hey, right away, this is ensuring that we are serious about this offer. We'll include a pre-approval letter from the lender stating, hey, that we have the funds to purchase this house. So what is the role for First American or any other title escrow company for handling those funds? How does all that work?
So basically all we are is a repository of instructions, and then we follow those instructions down to the letter. So we'll receive funds, they go into an escrow account, and really what it is a non-interest bearing account, and we deposit those funds as trust until those funds are delivered where they're supposed to be. So earnest money is one piece, then the lender, if you're a buyer and you're receiving financing, the lender then will deposit the balance of the financing to us, and then from there we'll disperse money to pay anything that needs to be paid. Sometimes it's taxes, sometimes it's repairs, and of course the seller proceeds on the other end. And so and we follow the buyers and sellers who are our clients, and they're usually represented by an agent. And so we work with the agents, the particular agents, to make sure that we are moving that transaction along.
It's a great neutral third party to have. It's just a way to make sure, no one's getting the short end of the stick and where everybody's following what was agreed upon. This is this transaction, this is what we want to pay for it. And you guys are just a great ally to have to make sure everything is legit.
It keeps the two parties from having to confront each other. Real estate transactions are very nerve-wracking, especially kind of at the end when all the pieces have to come together right at the exact moment. And so it helps us, we help the buyers and the sellers make sure that all of those things are happening without them having to confront each other.
Yeah.
And so it makes it for a more satisfactory transaction. And there's also a security issue, right? The buyer's not giving the money to the seller, or the seller is giving things
Right.
to the buyer directly that might or might not be at the right time. We also kind of make sure that there's no fraud. Right now, there's a lot of email fraud happening, buyers and sellers receiving emails from what looks like a title company or a lender asking them to move money around.
Yeah.
And so in our case, the buyers and the sellers know that regardless of the instructions that they get from anywhere, they need to call us first, and we will verify that in fact the information they're receiving is legitimate.
Right.
So they don't, because we're literally seeing on the daily basis stories about people losing money, hundreds of thousands of dollars being scammed. Sometimes people's life savings being taken away because they wire money to the wrong place. So we always want people to call first before they send
Absolutely. Absolutely. If it looks suspicious, it probably is. So that's amazing. Thank you for just giving us a little bit of, the background on that and a small snapshot. There's so many other parts to First American. There's 1031 exchanges, all that stuff we can maybe cover in another video.
Yeah.
So let's get back into, what you feel like is the lessons you've learned from moving here right out of college to where you are today, and what can we share with other small business folks who are either just getting started, or maybe they're successful in the sense that they've been in it, they're paying their bills, but they're ready to step it up a little bit.
Hopefully it all starts with the sense of gratitude. If you wake up every day and you're grateful for what you have, as opposed to coveting what you want, right? You already have a sense of fulfillment. It's like, wow, I have all of this.
Yeah.
Now I can work towards more, but boy, how blessed am I, right? To already have all of this. So I think if you start from a sense of gratitude, you're already kind of putting yourself in the right mindset. In my case, I'm grateful to be in the United States, right? The world is a crazy place. There's so many troubles and issues, and this is like the land of opportunity. Regardless of all the political stuff that's going on, this is the best place in the world. And I am grateful to be able to have this opportunity to participate in the society here and the economy and all of that stuff. So start with a sense of gratitude, have goals, and have goals in different parts of your life. Have goals for your spiritual well-being, whatever you define that as being, right? Have a spiritual goal, a physical goal, just to be well, physically well. It doesn't have to be a specific size or shape or anything, but just be well. Learn something. If you look at some of my social media places, my little tagline says, on a quest to learn something new every day and share it with others.
There you go.
Right? So learn something new every day and share it. Family, friends, love, that part of your life. So if you do those 4 things and have goals in those 4 things, you always have something meaningful to shoot for.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what your business is or how advanced your business is. There's always more. There's always growth.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a good way to kind of approach life and business.
Yeah, fantastic. I love everything you said. You're a learning-based person. You're not that person that, I've got it all figured out. And I think it's powerful to see your story as evidence of that. And having goals in those 4 areas that you're talking about, I agree. If we don't have clarity on right now, today, where am I at? What do I have? What can I be thankful for, like you're saying? Then we don't really know what's the next best step from there. It's like trying to follow the map in the mall without finding you are here. It's like, oh, cool, I want ice cream, but I don't know where the heck I'm at on the map.
Exactly.
So what will you feel like, because I know a lot of the times people talk about, there's these external things. There's like social media, for example. There's these things outside of us that are motivating, that are inspiring, that there's mentors. I know having a mentor is a big thing. For you as an individual, though, with everything taken away, what's your journey like, and what's your process like with you versus Hector?
I am a self-competitor, right? I am never satisfied. When I saw real estate, one of my marketing pieces said the only reason Hector's clients are satisfied is because he is not, right? And that's true. I mean, the only reason I get to do what I do is because I'm never satisfied with what I am doing,
Nice.
right? And the world is evolving so fast, technology is evolving so fast, our clientele is evolving so fast that we need to stay on top of it and not only keep up with it, but hopefully be ahead of it.
Yeah.
So we are the ones delivering value back to our relationships, right?
Nice.
If I am the one following the crowd, then I have nothing to give, right? So we work very hard to make sure that we're learning, that we are forward looking, that we're kind of keeping our finger on the trends, and not to get too far off into the horizon, but at least kind of see, okay, this is developing, what can we learn about it, and is there anything that we are learning that we can give back to our friends and family? So
I love that. So there's something you said there about not being satisfied. And I think if there's some people watching this, and even my first reaction to that in a lesser of myself kind of reaction is that, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to not be satisfied because then I might not be happy.
Right.
It's not that you're not happy because you start every day being grateful.
Exactly.
Happiness comes from gratefulness, I think, and peace, and finding the joy that is in the moment. But when you're somebody like you and I who are setting goals, you can't be satisfied. If you're satisfied, you're losing.
Right. Yeah, if you're static, you're losing, right? Because the world is moving forward.
Yeah.
And if you're not moving forward, you're by definition falling behind.
Yeah.
So again, it's kind of one of those things. It's like I might not achieve my goal on everything that I set out, but if I take inventory at the end of the year or at some point during the year where I'm just reviewing kind of where I am, I want to be able to tell myself with honesty, hey, you moved, right? You moved the needle a little bit, right? So, for example, here last month, we have the biggest revenue month in the history of the operation.
Nice.
Right? So those little benchmarks are kind of, those are my check-in points, right? It's like, are we moving the needle? Are we making any kind of difference?
Yeah.
And so you have those kind of little days or events or things that happen that you go, okay, everything that I do, all my decisions every day, this is where you kind of get to a check-in, right? Yeah. And you don't have those months every month,
right?
But as long as you have more of those than the other, then you're making progress.
I love it. I love it. I think that's where sometimes it's a miss, is that we're chasing that feeling, we're chasing that event or that success that's so crystal clear. Sometimes success is hard to nail down and really define. You can't measure your activities or your success based off of just those landmarks, like you're saying. Right. It has to be the small detail, baby steps, like we talked about earlier, that lead up to the most profitable month.
Yeah, and that reminds me of why some people kind of give up. It's because when you look at social media, for example, it's all the highlights of people's lives, right? People are not posting stuff, I'm bored, some people do, but it's like, I'm bored or I'm down, It's mostly like, look, I'm on vacation, or look, I got a new car, or look, I got new clothes, or right? And it's highlight after highlight after highlight after highlight. And then we look at that and it's like, my life is not like that. Well, nobody's life is really like that, right? What we're looking at are just these snippets that people are highlighting, and then we're jumping from highlight to highlight to highlight, and then trying to compare to that. And I think that's a distortion of reality. So we have individually, as entrepreneurs, as business people, as just a person wanting to grow, to kind of say, okay, I'm grateful for what I have. This is where I would like to be. And now what are the things that I can do today? And then tomorrow, what are the things I can do today? And then tomorrow, what are the things, right? Yeah. And then you get there and you get as far as you can.
I love it. I absolutely agree. I think that's the thing is, people do give up. yesterday I talked about the accountability and the example of David Goggins. I don't know if you've seen the interview of him. I'd check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Yeah,
he has a kind of he has a theory and a saying that most people give up at 40%.
Yeah.
And it's based off a story of him running his first 100 miles in less than 24 hours. And he ran 70 miles and was in bad shape,
right.
like really bad shape physically. Thought he had given 100%, and something just clicked in his head, and he ran the next 30 miles and finished the thing in 19 hours. So it's a beautiful story. I'll quit hammering it because I'm jacked up on it right now. But, it's the same. That's why when you said what you said about you can't be satisfied. To me, that's kind of my eye-opening experience right now, is that there's moments to savor, and definitely we have to live in the now.
Yeah.
And we have to take that and say, how much more of this can I have, or how much more of this can I share and create in the world if I choose not to be satisfied?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think the word creation is really what, right?
Yeah.
Is because things don't happen by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Your destiny is not pre-written, right? I mean, there's obviously I believe, kind of some divine order, right? But you create opportunities, and those opportunities give you results.
Nice.
Right? So it's a consequence-led universe.
Right.
So you basically reap what you sow.
Yeah.
And if you don't do anything, you're not going to get anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
If you work hard for the wrong things, you're going to get the wrong results.
Yeah.
So you have to pay attention and make the right decisions in order to reap the right rewards.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel my universe work, right? And
sure.
so I kind of try to work at it.
Yeah, I love your point about, you reap what you sow. And I think that is where integrity comes down to it. If we aren't paying attention, like you said, you have to pay attention to what you're doing, what's going on around you, as part of being the learning-based person, instead of just saying, I've got it figured out, I'm good, I'm just going to clock in and clock out every day. And if that's where you find peace, cool. My hat's off to you. That's not my journey, and it's not your journey either. That's a powerful thing. I think you are a really good example for all of us, though, to look at and say, if you choose integrity, if you choose gratefulness, and you choose to not be satisfied, the sky's the limit. You can go anywhere you want.
Absolutely. And it's not to say that you have to be full throttle on everything, right? You can choose to rest, right? And it's like the Iditarod, right? They don't run the whole race all flat out.
Right.
You have to take time to recover and take stock and rebuild and re-energize.
Yeah.
And you have to recognize when those times are. Otherwise, you also reach burnout. So there's risk, right?
That's right.
You have to learn you and where you are, and find out when you run full throttle and on what. And they're balancing things. Maybe I'm in a learning mode. So I'm going to, it's like I'm a little bit of a gym rat. And you go to the gym, and there are days when you just have it, right? And you put the plates on, and you're just lifting everything. And then there are days where you're like, oh, yeah, I did that yesterday. I'm going to do it again today. And it's like, it's not there,
nope.
Right? And you have to learn that and listen to your body, listen to what's going on around you, and you make those decisions at that time. And then just pace yourself. And again, if I'm a little bit better today than I was yesterday, it doesn't have to be by a mile, but a little bit. There's this story about the British cycling team for the Tour de France or whatever, right? The cyclists. And they weren't doing very well for a long, long time. And they brought in a new coach. He focused on what he calls incremental improvements, right? So it's not about just shaking up the whole team, but it's looking at little tiny things about what kind of pillow are they using?
Right.
Things like super tiny little things, right? Like of course, the tread on the tires and all of that stuff, but how many hours sleep do they get? And he started doing kind of very small little tweaks, and all of a sudden that British team wins, and I can't remember exactly, I'm sorry, but they win, I don't know if it's the Tour de France, but they win it like 4 times in a row, something like incredible like that, just by looking at small little incremental things. So it doesn't have to be monumental things, but you just got to know what they are and make those little tweaks.
I love that. That's so powerful, because I think I agree with you. If you're not paying attention to yourself, if you don't know yourself, right, you got to start with, am I getting enough sleep?
Right.
Just start there, you know. Those small things that we tend to overlook, I think in our world of America and opportunity, like you said, the rat race is something that's thrown around, and why the hell would you want to be a rat?
Right.
Be an intelligent human being.
Yes.
Be smart. Be confident in who you are and your abilities to learn and grow. And you know, I think there's something like just beautiful about what you said about resting. You know, we can't muscle our way to the front of the line.
Right.
You know, I can't be the #1 real estate agent in Oregon
overnight.
in 1 year.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it might be possible, but my work-life balance, the other goals I have in my life, why would I basically sacrifice everything just for one goal? Yeah, I want to be successful. Yeah, I want to help people buy and sell houses. I want to be a great life coach.
Right.
That has to take time. And I think, you know, there's so much in our world and online, especially, like you said, we're seeing the highs, and especially within real estate, you know, you see these people blasting my Facebook because it says I'm a realtor, and it's like, I sold X amount of millions of production my first year. Here's my lesson, or you know, they are all trying to sell you this like get rich quick kind of stuff, and you know, you can have it, because I would rather have quality relationships with my clients and really, like you said, learn each step of the way so that 5 years from now, I'm a rock star agent, but I got there knowing myself and knowing what I needed to learn along the way. Yeah.
And the satisfaction of having built it yourself, right? There is an industry in and of itself of get rich quick
definitely
formulas for everything that you can imagine, right? From losing weight in a day to, you know, getting your hair back to making $1 million. I mean, it is an industry in and of itself. And that's because we don't have the patience, we don't have the desire to do the hard things. We want somebody to just, you know, give it to us. You know, I even make a distinction sometimes between learning and being taught, right? Everybody likes to be taught. In other words, to be imbued with the knowledge, because that's passive. I don't have to do anything, right? But if I'm learning, that means I am actively involved in the action of absorbing the information. So there's people that like to be taught, and there's people that like to learn, and they're two different actions. And I think you are kind of describing, you know, the people that like to learn are the people that like to do the things and kind of study, what did I learn? What did go right? What went wrong? And do more of what went right and not more of what went wrong. Right? And then the other people who says, can I just give you $100 and just, you know, teach me how to do it? And then they won't do it either. Right? They won't do it either. So
Well, I don't know what better way to wrap this up and just challenge the people watching this today to be that learning person. You know, sometimes we do need to be taught on a few things, but ask yourself as the teacher. You know, you can teach yourself anything you need. And I think that's the big takeaway for me from your story and our interview today. Is just, it's powerful, and I appreciate you taking the time to sit with me and talk about this. I know it's valuable. I know people are going to be fired up about it. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
And as always, it's great to hang out with you, Hector. So till next time, cheers, everybody.